introduce the first session, the discussions which we are going to be having. This is on sustainable supply chain. As we begin with our discussions, I hand over to our moderator, Mr. Varghese.
Good morning, everyone. It's, I've done so many events. It's pretty rare that you get the first slot in the morning. So I'm pretty happy about that. And today we are dealing with sustainable supply chain and energy transition. And energy transition is probably the biggest piece of the sustainable supply chain. Why supply chain sustainability has become so big, of late? Because if you look at any product that you are coming from many industries, its environmental and social print over the life cycle, most of it is lying outside your own premises in its value chain. And it's even more magnified for energy and emissions. Typically, if you know, emissions, scope 3 emissions, which represent emissions from value chain for most of the products. Scope 3 emissions are like 5x to 10x of internal emissions. Therefore, looking at supply chain is a big multiplier. Now, if you look at the drivers, India, you take India, what is driving it? We have our national commitments to the Paris Agreement, which includes the 500 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity and also reducing our emission intensity of GDP by 45%. Two big drivers, right? And that is, so obviously there are a lot of policy measures, everything going with it. And with that, we are today we have what? Over 90 megawatts of, 90 gigawatts of solar, almost 50 gigawatts of wind installed in India, and we are scaling up. Maybe not exactly at the pace we want to, but we are scaling up. And on the regulatory side, we have now mandated ESG reporting, which includes, emissions and energy and all of that. And starting this year, the current year, FY25, the top 250 companies will also report on their value chain. Again, signifying the importance of value chain or supply chain. And so, supply chain sustainability is significant for energy transition. At the same time, if you look at the wind industry, the industry itself has a value chain and its own sustainability measures. Where the materials are coming from, how we are impacting maybe biodiversity, land use, and things like that. Circularity. What happens to these, gigantic blades at the end of life? These become important. So we have, we will try to deal with these two, general supply chain sustainability and energy transition associated with that, as well as the, supply chain issues or value chain issues of the wind industry itself. With that, we have a fantastic panel here, and practically, running various sections of the wind industry here. So, what we will do is, I will start from here, and I'll start with Hanif, and they will open with a couple of minutes, of describing their business. Then maybe based on that, I will have a follow-up question. We'll complete the panel, and then we will probably have, depending on the time, 1 or 2 open questions. And hopefully we will have some time left for the audience to throw some questions. So once again, thank you. And coming to Hanif, so I will request you to just give the audience a 2-minute quick overview of what your company does, what you do, and then I'll follow up that with a question for you to answer. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Bose. It's a pleasure to be here. So our company, LM Wind Power, we are a Danish company. We are part of the G Vernova corporation. And what we do is we design and manufacture blades. And we have been doing that for over 50 years, from 1970. And out of that 50 years, 30 years of it, we have been here in India. We were kind of like the first pioneers here in India to start the wind, together with our partners and customers. And since then, in the past 30 years, we have designed and manufactured over 54,000 blades, I believe. We don't use India just as a manufacturing hub, but we also design blades, so it's also for us a competency center. And that equates to somewhere around 21 gigawatts of electricity that carries LM Wind Power blades. And out of that 21, it's close, more than 70% is for the local market. So often, if you see a wind turbine in India, there's a good chance it carries an LM blade. So that's what we do, and when it comes to sustainability, we try to be in the forefront of it. And what you mentioned as far as the emissions, we have been the first company which went carbon neutral in the sector in 2018, and that kind of also started the path for the rest to follow. And it's both around decarbonizing and electrifying. And then, of course, waste, which I can talk later once the question comes, and people and society. So that's what we do, and it's great to be here.
Thank you, Hanif. And I'm going to ask a question to you before we move on. You have been in India for a while, and the way I see things, there is regulatorily, otherwise there is a push in the supply chain sustainability direction. And my question is, do you really see that and making a difference, maybe making an impact on the demand side, which is what it is supposed to do, at least for the energy transition? Anything that you can share in that regard?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the regulatory, I think regulations, there is one fundamental regulation that I think any country or any government has put for us, and that's the fundamental equation. We want to reduce our emissions, decarbonize. And I think while we look for regulations in India and other countries, I think it depends also for us as the private sector to initiate it. And in India, actually, we get a great support from the local governments, and they appreciate what we do, especially when it comes to decarbonizing our operations. We can't be in renewable business, build wind turbines, and then not think about the carbon footprint, but also waste. And at least on the LM side, our India operations, both on electricity consumption from renewables, but also recycling our waste, is the #1 in all our factories around the world. India is in the forefront. Our operation utilizes 94% renewable energy, and in our factories in India, we recycled over 90% of our waste. So we have got acknowledged by the government. I think regulation will give us a little bit more push the sector, but it's needed. So.
Thank you so much, Hanif, for that insight. With that, I want to, Akash, if you could tell the audience a little bit about your business, your company, and then I will follow with the question. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear clearly because when you speak, the voice here is a little bit jumbled up. So, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Pleased to be here with the other panelists here. I here represent the ZF Group. ZF Group primarily is the world's second largest auto component manufacturer, mainly from Germany, but spread all across the world. India is a very important destination. In India, we have a good footprint over the last 60 years with over 18 manufacturing facilities and 10 technical centers. The most important technical centers in Hyderabad, where we have 3,500 engineers doing cutting-edge technology. So we are about 16,000 Indians here supporting the automobile and the windmill industry in India. So as ZF, more or less, we are in all scopes of automobiles, be it pass cars or construction equipment or trucks or buses or industrial equipment, etc. But we also have an extremely important footprint when it comes to windmill. And what holds us together as an automobile group is basically the 100+ years of the transmission or the gear technology, and that's the plant we have in Coimbatore. I'm pleased to say that it is the world's largest facility for transmissions or gears outside of China and has been expanding rapidly. I have two of my colleagues here who manage that business in a very good way from Coimbatore, Mr. Deepak, head of our operations in India for the windmill business, and then Mr. Murli, our sales director. We recently celebrated a couple of months back 50 gigawatt of gearbox supplies across the world to all the major customers. And of course, it goes without saying that all the big customers in the world are our customers, and we're very proud of that fact, supplying quality products out from there. And of course, it's very heartening to see for us as ZF what happens to the India market. Today, from our facility in Coimbatore, we export almost over 80% of what we make in India. But it's heartening to see that we move from now every year with an aim in the government from 2 gigawatt to 10 gigawatt. And that would also then make supplies very relevant for our customers in India, especially Suzlon and other key Nordics and other key customers who are also well spread here. So we look forward, and it's good to see how this show is expanding. I believe that over 100+ new participants have come into this segment already in this show, and we are very happy to be here and contribute in our own way to Viksit Bharat, which we all wish to achieve by 2047. Thank you.
Thank you, Akash. I mean, one of the critical components of windmills, the gearboxes. And, the larger industry, is auto components. You're a global player. And that's a sector where the whole supply chain plays out, in all its glam and glitter. So being in that space, how do you deal with supply chain sustainability at large, and specifically energy transition? How important it is being in the auto industry?
Well, let me say like this, that like any other global company, and Mr. Hanif just mentioned it, sustainability is very high on the agenda. And I would go down a little bit on levels. First of all, on sustainability, if I look at scope 1 and 2, we as an organization in India, and it doesn't matter whether it's the field or windmills or automobiles, this applies all through. So as ZF, we are looking to be, from our point of view, be fully climate neutral by 2040. It's a tough target, but it's taken. But what I'm pleased to say is that we will be 80% carbon neutral already by 2030. And including what we do in our windmill business in India, we look at a high level how to have better energy efficiency, how to use electrification more rather than to look at fossil fuels. how to use recycled material. So this is at a high level what one does globally. When it then comes to us as ZF in India, and if I can just mention, and Coimbatore is a very good example of that, by next year, all our facilities in India will be 100% run on renewable energy, whether it is our plants or whether it is our offices or technical centers, etc., etc. We try very much from our side that we can use, let's say, small things like natural lights in our plants and offices, and so there are air conditioning to be replaced with air cooling and so on and so forth. But these are all for us. But then it really comes to supply chain. And supply chain is not only important to what is supplied to us or what we supply to our customers, we also are exporting or sourcing material worth 800 million euro out of India. And that means supplier, whether in India or anywhere else in the world, for our customers or for ZF, have to be at a level and have to be sustainable. And that's a tough journey because there are then a lot of open ends there when you work with suppliers. And they're not one or two, they're in their hundreds. So I think when it comes to suppliers, the first thing we do from our side is that, of course, it's mandatory for them to meet the requirements of what we as Scope 2 need. They come under Scope 3 in the sustainability journey. We look forward to working with them to produce using green energy for their production. We look at very much sourcing majority of our steel requirements through scrap. I think that is changing very much in India, and good to see that scrap is then finally in need. And then on the technical side, we have recently started looking at the component level with the part carbon PCF footprint of where it stands. We are looking at making more efficient turbines, and I think we are, amongst other players, also known for our technology, and that never stops. How to reduce material usage per unit of energy produced. And lastly, I would say that circular economy is the principle which drives us. In India, we've just recently signed an MOU with the Kalyani Group for green steel, and looking out at many more ways of how this can be done. But overall, minimize waste, optimize energy use through digitization, reduce emissions. These are some things I think we all follow, and it's about putting them on the agenda as soon as possible. And with that, with the number of regulations coming in globally, we are in our facilities at Coimbatore, we think we are second to none, especially in the windmill industry, and looking forward to sustainability being the key in supply chain.
Thank you, Akash. Perfect example of how a big player demands sustainability in its own supply chain and, walks the talk in its own operations. Now, thank you. And coming to Peter. Peter, could you, now you are in a different space. You are an advisor, sourcing or helping businesses to come to Denmark. Tell us, the Danish perspective of the drivers and some of the enablers and even challenges that you see in the space.
Well, if we start with the key drivers, of course, it's all about climate, it's about energy security, and also circularity is very important and on the agenda. Denmark as a nation is now moving toward a goal of 70% reduction of CO2 targets in 2030 and climate neutrality in 2025. So that will definitely help, and one of the goal setting now is very much more renewable. Already today we have 80% of our power consumption coming from renewable energy, 56 from wind, and it'll be 100% in 3 years' time. So there's a clear target in that area, and coming back to what's happening in terms of challenges. Of course, it's a challenge with all this energy, and we will see an energy conversion from power maybe to molecules, hydrogen and other stuff, and that also have implications for the overall circularity of the whole system. I think the key challenges is, of course, the business case. It's the end user. How do you find the end user? And in terms of overall energy system, it's very much the infrastructure as well as the you could say the permits and so on.
And thank you so much. I don't know how much you know about India and how the same system works here. Would you see any big areas of difference and alignment? Or alignment?
Well, I think it's becoming a global world, and it's all about how you recycle or reuse your resources. And as we've heard previously, we'll see more demands on reporting and Scope 3 reporting and what will happen. And there's a push both from the customer side, but also very much from the public side. We see that in Denmark. The young people is very interested in learning how much the company they're supposed to or try to work for and how they are doing on recycling.
Thank you so much. And now to Rajesh. Rajesh is representing one of the biggest corporate houses in India. But he is CEO of the advanced materials section. So I will let him describe the business, and then I can follow with the question. Please, Rajesh.
Yeah, so thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. So maybe a few words on the Aditya Birla Group for some of you who might not know. So we are a 65 billion diversified group from apparel to aluminium, as we say, and we also have a renewable power business, which is called the Birla Renewables, which is also growing quite strongly. I represent the advanced materials business. As the advanced materials business, we are a leading resin supplier to the wind industry. We are partnering with almost every wind turbine manufacturer here in the country as well as globally. We have 4 manufacturing plants. One out of Thailand, which is our oldest plant. We are currently also ongoing a greenfield expansion. We have a plant here in Gujarat where we have recently doubled our capacity. We have manufacturing in Europe, in Germany, and as we speak, we are implementing a greenfield expansion in the United States. A few words on our commitment to sustainability. As a group, we are committed to net zero by 2050.
Maybe you can. That's going to be my question, so you can probably cover that. My question is not restricted to the advanced materials itself. As a large corporate, how does all this play out? You are in multiple jurisdictions, multiple regulations. For example, CBAM. People here would have heard of CBAM. It's called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. It's nothing but a carbon tax put on certain materials that are exported or imported into the EU region from outside. Aluminum is one, big part of that. But aluminum has a very high emission intensity, and they make aluminum. So how do you deal with that and the whole group being sustainable? I mean, it's part of supply chain. You're part of one big supply chain ecosystem. So your own transition, how do you manage that and deal with these multiple evolving regulations and things like that? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll try to answer a little bit of a complex question given the complexity of the company. As a group, we are committed to net zero by 2050. Within India, our legal entities from aluminium to cement, our power consumption is upwards of 4 gigawatts, and it's only rising. As far as scope 1 and 2 are concerned, for example, with the aluminium, we say that 30 by 30, which means 30% of power consumption has to be renewable by 2030. Right? That's what we are really committed to. So we are in firm control of scope 1 and scope 2 emissions as to what do we do in terms of recyclability and renewability. Scope 3, as you said, remains the largest challenge for us to attain, right? So many of our businesses, including the Novelis aluminum business on the United States, has 60% of recyclable content in aluminum, right? So that's what largely we are committed to. So a few words, again, coming back to where I represent and the advanced materials business, right? So we have been pioneering it from an innovation standpoint. Sustainability has been core as far as our agenda. So we are the first in the world to commercialize a recyclable resin technology. At this point in time, we are working with partners and commercially now setting up wind blades which are fully recyclable. It's patented. The plant we commissioned in India is based on completely renewable power, free of solvents and very high bio content. So we very strongly believe that circularity is going to get very important, especially with COP30, where we will roll out the global circularity protocol. It will become a part of reporting, right? And hence, I think we are driving it not only from a consumption standpoint, but we believe recyclability is the future, and that's where we are anchoring on.
Thank you so much. I think circularity and recyclability is something that everybody has touched upon. And I am going to, so maybe we will extend that. Madan, please tell us, about the business, and then I have an interesting question for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to all. I represent Nordex Acciona Wind Power, so headquartered at Hamburg. And currently we are doing a volume of around 7 to 8 gigawatt annually. And worldwide we have installations over 80 gigawatt. And our manufacturing plants are spread over the globe. Currently in US, Germany, Spain, China, and India. And when I come to our Indian context, we have our manufacturing presence in Chennai, and we do contribute to around 20 to 25% of the global business. But we don't deliver any turbines here in India. We export 100% of our manufactured turbines. We manufacture nacelle and blades. Up to 7 megawatt is there with us on the platform scale, but we produce here 5 megawatt, of course 4 megawatt machines. Of course, we are going to launch 6 megawatt very shortly in India. So this is a brief background about Nordex Acciona and its presence here. And when I come to sustainability, maybe Bose, if you have any question, please let us talk about that.
Thank you, Madan. So my question is, I think, from the description of business, I think you deal with a lot of sourcing and components and parts. My question is, when it comes to wind industry value chain itself, and specifically to India, what are our strengths, what are weaknesses, what are our dependencies, from other countries for components and parts? If you can give us a view of that, and it's important. There is a great stress on locally manufacturing, locally being fully self-reliant, and all of that. In that larger picture, where wind sits, if you can give us an idea. I'm sure everyone else has something to add to it, but I will let you start on that.
Yeah, sure. As such, when you see the Indian context of wind supply chain, I would say we are capable of delivering close to 15 to 18 gigawatt. We have the capacity in supply chain, and it is spread over all the components. Either you take nacelle, blades, or towers. And whenever there is a demand which goes beyond the capacity, the Indian supply chain is capable of adjusting to the demand and quickly react to meet to that levels. So when I talk about sustainability in supply chain, maybe I have to take my own company as the example. So we have driven down a sustainability strategy way back somewhere in 2017-18, and we have driven down our objectives in each areas of the supply chain. It starts with our own business area. We have a responsibility towards our product where cost of energy need to be reduced without affecting any social or economical or any other environmental aspects. Then we have our own employee responsibility where we focus on the culture, building leadership culture and occupational safety of the employees. And of course, responsibility with the supply chain. We work closely with the supply chain partners to nurture right from day one, that is, when they being onboarded, there is a process where recently also some 3-4 years ago, there is a German Supply Chain Act is also activated. And of course, after the introduction of GSEA, there are a lot more strengthening has happened in the sustainability front. And then we have our own environmental management, where Akash was also touching on this topic. 100% already it is through renewables. It is implemented across the globe. In India, we have just implemented this. In this year, we are reaching that target. And then responsibility towards society. So that is a CSR activities wherever we present in the sites. There is a specific budgets are allocated to build the society and the local livelihood.
Thank you so much. So we have gone through this round, and I'm going to ask the last question. When it comes to wind supply chain scenario in India, not specific to your own industry, just India as a country and its setup, in that wind energy value chain, where we are, and do we have a weakness and big dependencies? If you can, anything to add? I mean, not specifically your own industry, I'm saying in general, in the wind industry.
I think in the wind industry, India is doing pretty good, both on the manufacturing footprint, but also I think it's important that in the first day there was a gentleman, I forgot his name, but mentioned India needs to have a competency center. It needs to be a competency center to innovate, design the next material. My friend here from Aditya Birla, they help us with new resin systems. So I think if there is one weakness I see is, I think there could be more collaboration. I think we need to see the wind sector in India beyond just the economics, but look at it from a long-term sustainability, but also a sustainable business. Some other countries, I think they miss that, especially when it comes to price wars. This sector, and my hope is India doesn't go there.
Thank you. Akash.
I think just a couple of words. Of course, as I said, sustainability is being applied universally. Doesn't matter which industry it is. On the windmill industry, there are some areas where we are quite good. In our case, of course, we've been around for a while, 15 plus years, doing a lot of manufacturing, making a lot of mistakes, learning from them, succeeding from them. So there are areas in general in the windmill industry where we think on sustainability index, we are high on the parameters as an industry. But this is just beginning of the journey. I'm told that we are the fourth largest in the world, but if I look at it in terms of market share, we're probably 2 or 5% or maybe less than that. So there's a lot to happen, especially on the supplier side, because quality is the key, sustainability is the key. That has to come in naturally. Yeah. That is not there yet. Tier 1, Tier 2 networks, probably we are high and meet most of the objectives because we are all very global. Even the local companies are very global. But on Tier 3, we have a challenge to meet. There's so many suppliers. They're not only into windmill, they're also doing other things, most of them. Right. And to get the whole network moving, and you said collaboration, that is the key. Change in culture and thinking is very much the key. The government is supporting quite a lot, but some actions need to be faster. There are a number of things where, of course, you can go on sustainability index, but sometimes even the material is not available in India in certain cases. So that is where support is needed to make it happen and then move on to the sustainability steps. So a lot more to do, but seeing what is happening here and the number of players we have and the way the government is focusing on sustainability, on the windmill business, I think we are on the right track, but a lot to be done.
Thank you. And Rajesh, you have
so maybe a slightly different perspective here, and as we scale up to, let's say, 5 gigawatt of installations every year, and I did a rough maths, and it means 6,000 blades of 2.5 megawatt turbines, and it actually means 120,000 tons of wind blade waste coming into landfills at the end of its usage life, right? And the question really is about how do we look at this opportunity? It also means 60,000-70,000 tons of potential to recycle fibers and about 30,000-40,000 tons of thermoplastic, and maybe about a $200 million opportunity every year, right? Now, here we are as a company out of India, partnering with installations in Europe to set up recyclable blades. And the question which comes to us here is, can't we set a standard here in terms of recyclability? As GCP gets implemented, as CBAM gets implemented, it could be a unique competitive advantage. Right?
Thank you. I think I've heard this before, standards, setting standards for recyclability, and that probably is one area we need to work on. Peter, would you have anything on this?
I don't know. I'm not the expert. The companies are the experts, but as a society and as a nation, I think it's the end goal is a circular economy, and that means that that there has to be improvements all over. And I think from what I hear here and what I've learned, we are on the track. We're not there yet.
Thank you so much. So we all agree. There are probably things to do, but we are on the right track. So with that, I think we have got 7 minutes left. Do we have more time? I thought we started a little late. Or we have only 7 minutes. Can you please confirm? I thought we started the session a little late. So do we have a little more time, or this is it? We can add up to 5 minutes more. Okay. So we have a few minutes for questions, and we really wanted to address your questions. So please state your name and organization, and then direct the questions to the panelists, the appropriate panelists. Or if it's an open-ended question you don't know, then we will try. One of us will try to do. Please.
Yeah, hi. This is Manoj from Net Zero Think. So my question is to everyone. Whether anyone like you people are producing lots of products, and also, are you also putting the carbon footprint of the product on, what is the product carbon footprint, this much of kg of emission is coming out of this product, something like that. This type of practices is being followed by anyone. So.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
So I can start with that. I think we are, through the life cycle analysis, measuring the carbon emissions, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 on an individual product level. In fact, we are also requested by several of our European customers to not only declare values, but also declare a journey to reduction. So to just affirm, yes, it's a part of our process today.
Any other, I think, Hanif had.
Yes, as far as the carbon footprint, we basically monitor the whole operation of LM, and we do publish that. And it's part of Scope 1 and 2, and it goes together with our parent company, GE Vernova. Specific to the products, there has been an initiative actually in Europe. We partner with few OEMs, and it's called the Blade Passport. So a product carries a passport, and within that passport, you can see all this information. It's infancy, so that's something new that started a couple of years ago, and it was pushed through the end customers. They would like to have a Blade passport.
So, I mean, just to, so I talked about CBAM, I mean, whether it is put on packaging or a product, the whole CBAM, the European carbon tax, is based on emission intensity. The sectors like steel and aluminum that we export to the EU, they are looking at the CO2 per ton of that product. So in effect, whatever goes there, once that comes into effect, will be labeled, will be known and declared. We may not see that, it's an export product. But, yeah, but there are some measures.
See, the question is, whatever the activities everyone is doing, if it is getting reflected in terms of, what are the products they are manufacturing, so people will have understanding before buying, okay, the product what I'm going to buy from X and Y, company, it will have this much of impact, and it is going to, impact my Scope 3 emission in such a way. So I think it is going to help ecosystem basically to understand who is doing what and what can be done further, to improve, or reducing the overall emissions.
Mr. Bose?
I will just quickly answer. It's, good idea. It's not easy to do. There is greenwashing regulation just released by the Central Consumer Protection Authority. So there, if you are claiming a product to be carbon neutral, you are going to have to support it with supporting information, which may include its footprint and things like that. So all I'm saying, you may not say this product has so many grams of, this is a 200-gram pack of so-and-so, and it has so many grams of, you may not see that, but something in those lines are happening. But it's a very, very challenging job. The risk-reward ratio may not be, right for a consumer product. So
I do agree it's challenging, but the thing is, if we start whatever we are doing, reflecting, so people will encourage, to support that.
Agreed. It's a good thing if it can be done. Can we move to the next question, please?
No, sorry, Mr. Bose, I want to answer it.
Yeah, you have it.
See, here, when you talk about a product, maybe it would be very relevant, which as a strategy when you make, there is a dimension on product. So when you produce a product, there are 5 parameters to monitor the sustainability. Similarly, when you go to manufacturing, and then environmental dimension, and then social dimension, and then governance dimension. So I can, maybe offline, there are around 30 parameters which we monitor. I can give you this data. Maybe it will be useful to you. And these are all publicly reported for the products what we produce. What is the impact it is creating in site? What is the impact it is creating in the plant? And for each dimension, we have to have a target. Year on year, we have to improve. It is not only about waste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Product labeling with emission, it's a long way away. So that much I can tell you. Next question, please.
Hello all. I have myself Prabhu. I am an entrepreneur in wind power project development. So I have 2 questions. One general question is like why there is a disparity between the maximum megawatt in different continents. So people are talking about 4, 5 megawatt here, and in Europe or in US they are even talking about 15 megawatt. So why there is this disparity? And second, can circularity be this butterfly effect to homogenize the market and also, give more logic to rotor swept area? Because the more rotor swept area, the more power, but can we do it better?
So the first question is about the capacity of the unit.
Of
And
the unit,
okay,
yes.
why outside they have large capacity units and we only have up to 4, 6?
Sorry, don't get me wrong. It's not about having the large capacity. It's about having homogenized market. Because large capacities give more challenges for the project development. Can the market be fostered in another way? Like if everyone have 5 megawatt, people can produce more here and export. Something like blade passport, Mr. Hanif has said. So can this be done in terms of circularity so that everybody wins?
Anyone wants to take that?
I can start, but I think maybe my colleague from Nordics, Sexiona, can add to it. Just as far as the capacity of these turbine goes, it all comes down to levelized cost of energy. So you run the LCOE model in different countries, you can end up with a different megawatt rating and different rotor blade. And there's the first variable is the wind speed. So, for example, in Germany or Denmark, you have a different class of wind versus what you have in India, in most of India, like class 2 or class 3. So that's the first thing, LCOE. And then when it comes to the sustainability and blade passport, I think it's important that, to what you mentioned, it's a very complex one. So we even have started this blade passport. We have started with blades which are close to 40, 50 meter. These larger components, the whole value chain, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, there are a lot of variables. So unless we get those variables in control, you cannot confidently put a stamp on a product as far as carbon neutrality. We could do it on our operation sides, but to capture the whole value chain, there is a long way. It's a good first step, and that's what we have started with some of our partners. But I will let Nordic Sexiona add to it.
In the Indian context, when you grow on the size, one is your project issues, which you need only less land, the implementation becomes simpler, then cost per megawatt, it is going to come down when you grow up. But there is a limit for our Indian segments. And always we follow, say, maybe 5 years behind what is there in the similar market.
Thank you. One last question.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rajesh Patil. I'm from Envision Energy India. So it's good that we are talking about greenhouse gas emissions and circularity. I also wanted to know how we can do other two pillars for social and governance part of sustainability, particularly on human rights or something on the governance part, especially for tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers.
If I may, so we
please.
stuck to this because we look at the topic. Our focus was on energy transition, so that's why we didn't touch the whole ESG basket as such. So if we go that way, I don't know if you want to open that question, but that's why we didn't touch that topic.
Yeah, Mr.
No, you
Akash.
rightly said, and of course, when you handle ESG, you handle in all areas. You talked about energy transition, that's what we were focusing on it, but you don't work on one leg and leave the other one. You work on an all-over program.
It is important, we know that, but
Yes.
we were just sticking to the topic. So I think, so I mean, maybe we can talk outside, but as on the forum, I mean, there are issues there, important issues within the sector itself. But that's not something that we came here to discuss, so that's why we didn't discuss that.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Yeah. So we are almost out of time. So, so we will close this. I want to thank the audience. I would like to thank Hanif, Akash, Peter, Rajesh, Madan. Thank you so much for being here. And a big thank you to Windergy for having us all here. Thank you.